So the first action table is the movement action table, and this is basically how you move your models across the tabletop. So I've got a couple of demonstration models here. I've got a Booker Raider and I've got a couple of Norlocks. You might notice that my Booker Raider is on a 30mm round base and my Norlocks are on 20mm square bases. Doesn't matter what base size you use, provided that it's appropriate for the size of the model that you're using. Walk moves make up the basis of movement actions, and a walk, measured in inches, is very simply up to the model's dexterity. So my Norlock here has a dexterity of 5, so he can move up to 5 inches as a walk action, and that will cost him 3 stamina. There are 2 variants on the walk. If you're taking more than 1 walk action consecutively, that's called a sprint, and that will get you benefits or your opponent's model's penalties if they try and target actions at that model. The other variant is the creep. So if I've got a Booker here, it's got his field of vision across the table here. He can see my Norlock coming. That means my Norlock can't creep. You can only creep if you can't be perceived by the model that you're moving up on. So in this case, this model can't be perceived by the enemy model, so he can creep instead of walking, and again that will give him bonuses with regards to other actions that he might take. The other movement actions are jumping and climbing. So if you wanted to move over this water feature here, for example, you might make a walk and then a jump move to get across. If he wants to go up this cliff, there's suitable handholds here so you can make a walk and a climb. The thing about movement actions is that you have to declare all of them before you start. So if I say, right, I'm going to make a walk action to here, then I'm going to make a jump action over the lake, then I'm going to make a walk action the further side. Provided that you can do those things, you do all of those things. So you make a walk, you make a jump, you make a walk. If at any point you find that you can't do the next thing, you have to stop, but you lose the stamina for all of the remaining actions that you declared that you were going to do. So for example, if I make a walk and then I jump and I don't make the jump and he ends up in the water and I have to take the consequences of that, he obviously can't make the following walk move, but he would still lose the stamina for the following walk move as if he was going to do it. You can break up your movement actions. You can do a walk and then you can do another walk and then you can do a jump, and you can space them out. But each time you do that, you have to do another action from a different action table in between. So I could do a walk and then an evaluate action to check where I was, and then I could do a jump or another walk to get across the lake. Obviously those evaluate moves are using up extra stamina. It's just meaning that you're not wasting stamina by not being able to do the move that you've declared you're going to do. The shooting action table allows you to shoot at models that are at a distance, but also to throw items. It's kind of a ballistics projectiles category. And this is based on a model's accuracy, so that's their perception plus their courage. In this case, I've got a Muskrath here with his Norlock musket, and he's going to be shooting at this Booker Raider. So let's imagine at the moment that the Booker Raider is looking at something over here and can't see my Norlock coming up to shoot behind him. If he's just going to make a shooting attack, he needs to be able to perceive his target, which in this case he can. The target lies nicely within his field of vision, but his target can't perceive him, and that's important. We'll come back to that later on. So my Muskrath is just going to make a it's just going to take a shoot action at the Booker Raider, and the shoot action allows him to fire up to his accuracy range with some modifiers. So if he hasn't moved, he gets a bonus. If he's sprinted, he gets a penalty. If he's spent any stamina aiming, which is also a shooting action, before he makes the shot, he gets a bonus. And there are a few other skills and traits that will also affect the way that shot comes off. If his target didn't move, he'll get a bonus. If his target has sprinted, it's harder to hit, he'll get a penalty. If his target is big, he'll get a bonus. If his target is ducked or prone, he'll get a penalty. If his target's in cover, he'll get a penalty. And if his target is higher up than he is, it's harder to shoot at him accurately, so he'll get a penalty to shoot. But in this case, let's pretend that none of those things apply. So the only thing that applies is his accuracy plus 3 inches because he's within his field of vision. Now, in order to target a shooting attack at a model, you have to be able to perceive it. That doesn't mean it has to lie within your field of vision. There are other ways that you can perceive it, largely if it's within your perception range around your base, which means it'll be really close to you, so you'll likely hit it. But also, for example, if you've had an order or a Fate Weaver action directed at you, you may be able to shoot at something that you couldn't otherwise perceive. But in most cases, you're going to be able to have whatever you're shooting at within your field of vision, which means that you're almost always getting that 3-inch bonus. So in this case, he's got a shooting range of 9 inches, well within range of my Booker. So my Booker gets hit, he gets moved an inch away from the shooting model, and he has to react. If he has stamina left, he can evaluate, so he can turn to see where the shot came from. He could duck, he could dive, throw himself out of the way. But if he has no stamina left, the only thing that he can do is to fall prone, which means it's going to take him more time to get up again. Now let's assume that the Booker Raider was now facing the Norlock when the shot happened. In that case, he can see that he's about to get shot at from this model, and that means that he gets to take a reaction before the shot is taken. So he can dive, he can throw himself out of the way, or he can duck to try and avoid the shot if he can see the shot coming and he's got enough stamina to do so. Shots also inflict damage on their target. So in this case, my Norlock musket has quite a high impact, has an impact of 5. So that means that if that hit the Booker Raider, he would take 5 damage straight away. This is a war game, so of course there is going to be some hand-to-hand combat in it. And in this case, we'll make our Booker Raider be the attacker. We'll give him a chance to get his own back on the Norlock. Now, we've already covered field of vision, what the model can perceive in order to target his actions. So in order to charge at this Norlock, he has to be able to perceive it, which he can. It's within his field of vision. What's also important with this are lines of engagement. Now in this case, both my Norlock and my Booker only have one line of engagement. That's their centre front line, which we're using to measure their field of perception from. But there are other models that have other lines of engagement. For example, my Miri Lozbast here has a lashing tail at the back, which means that they also have a line of engagement out the rear of the base. My Gnome Dutki here has a shield, which means that he has his normal line of engagement at the front, but he also has a line of engagement on the side of the base that he's carrying the shield. To initiate an attack, you need to make a move action into base-to-base contact with the model that you're attacking. Note, you can't measure before you move, so you have to work out whether you think you're in range before you declare your initiate move. You can initiate with a walk, or you can initiate with a sprint, or you can initiate with a creep. And remember, for a creep, your target model can't be able to perceive you. If you initiate with a walk move, or you initiate with a sprint move because you're further away, and your target model can see you coming, provided they've got enough stamina to do so, they get to react before you get there. And their reactions could be to run away, could be to sidestep you as you come in, or it could just be to prepare themselves for the attack and take it. Or they might have other skills that allow them to take other reactions. So in this case, the Norlock can see and he's just going to stand there and take the charge. So my Booker moves in. That's one way of initiating. If my Norlock's now facing this way, so my Booker is outside of his field of vision, he can still initiate with a walk or with a sprint. But because the Norlock can't see him coming, he can't react. So when he gets into base contact, you turn him to face and continue the grapple from there. The last way he can come in is the same way. If the target can't perceive him, he can make a creep instead of a walk or a sprint. Bear in mind that a creep is limited to a walk move, so if you're quite far away, you won't be able to creep into a grapple. But if he creeps, you don't turn the target model. The target model stays where it is, and this will become important when you're resolving the grapple. So how you initiate a grapple is important. Okay. The way that you essentially score how this grapple goes down is to work out the grapple score of each model, which is based on their finesse, so that's their strength plus their agility, plus whatever stamina they have remaining. But there are some conditions here. So if we've taken the first of our initiate scenarios, so the Norlock has seen him coming and he's prepared, the Booker doesn't get to use the stamina that he spent on that initiate move. If the Norlock wasn't able to perceive the attack coming and the Booker came in, the Booker does get to use the stamina that he spent. So if he charged from a long way away, built up a lot of impetus, and the Norlock wasn't ready to take that charge, he gets to add the stamina to his grapple score. And if he came in with a creep, it's even worse because he's now off the Norlock's line of engagement. If you're engaged in a grapple and you're off your opponent's line of engagement, your opponent suffers a reduction to their grapple score. So that it's known as being wide spaced. So you've got round the area that they're able to guard successfully, so your blows are going to have more chance of hitting. In this case, because the Norlock only has one line of engagement out the front, coming in from the side here, and you always come into a grapple from the nearest edge of the base, he's going to have wide space, the Norlock, and the Norlock is going to take a penalty to his stamina. If he tried that with my gnome, the gnome still wouldn't be able to react because he can't perceive the Booker coming in, but he wouldn't be wide spaced because the Booker is still on a line of engagement that's given him by having the shield. Once you've worked out who is the victor in this combat, then you deduct the loser's grapple score from the winner's grapple score, and the remaining result is the amount by which they were successful. And you can pick from a list of actions which ramp up in severity based on how much they win the grapple by. So if you win the grapple by 1 point, for example, you can trip your opponent. That just gives them an off-balance condition, which means that you get a bit of a bonus in your next round. If you win by 2, you get to vault them, so you get to wide space. So in this case, although my Booker is not currently wide spacing the gnome here, if he were to win the first round of combat, he'd be able to go around the back of the base, therefore wide spacing the gnome for the next round of combat. If you win by 3, you're able to strike your opponent with your weapon. If you win by 4, you're able to choose if you want to disengage from the model again. If you win by 5, you're able to knock your model over. And if you win by 6 or more, you're able to do a double strike, which means if you're carrying 2 weapons, you can hit twice. Or if you're carrying a weapon in one hand and you've got a bare fist, you can hit with the weapon and with the fist. Now, you don't have to choose the action that you won by. So if you've won by 4 points, you don't have to choose to disengage. You can choose to strike, you can choose to vault, you can choose to trip your opponent. It just gives you more options the more you win the combat by. Moving into the second round of combat, you ignore decisiveness for models that are starting a game turn already in a grapple. So grapples are resolved first before anything else happens, and both models declare simultaneously, although whoever is holding the turn counter gets to break any ties if there's a conflict in what happens. And you have a number of options at the start of a grapple turn. You can break off, so you can spend stamina to escape from the grapple. You can change facing, so if you're wide spaced, you can turn to face your opponent, or you can just opt to continue the grapple. Obviously, stamina will reset because they're activating at the start of the turn, so they'll get their full stamina again. If you have multiple models in combat, then they will all declare simultaneously, but if you remain stuck in combat with any one model, then you're going to have to fight the grapple.